welcome to Live IndieQuest. Welcome to the 2024 Polymedia Charity stream. This is your celebration of the indie and obscure. Hopefully you're all doing well. A lot of friendly faces in the chat. I love almost each and every one of you. You can self-select who I am and am not talking about. But let me introduce my boys here. First up, Frantic. How's it going, my man?
Oh, man, I'm chilling. I have an energy drink I'm going to open up to start this off because, it's morning time. But I'm ready to do this thing. I'm excited.
Yep, same. I have the iced Americano. I've already pounded 2 orange cranberry muffins and only 5 minutes of stressed out standing in the fridge eating Ruffles and Top the Tater. So all in all, I'm doing pretty well. But that beautiful laugh you just heard is my good buddy Seth, Captain Drachma. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to finally be live with you boys, and for a wonderful cause at that. So I'm excited to IndieQuest today.
Yeah, it's going to be a very good time. For those that are not joining us for the live stream, we are recording this one live, benefiting the International Association for Suicide Prevention. So if you missed coming and hang out, maybe we'll do a live episode again in the future. I imagine that we will. We kind of loosely talked about maybe we'd do it for episode 100, and then the math worked out that episode 98 is going to be our first live episode. So now it's can't really do episode 100 live. It feels like it hasn't been enough time that we're still in the refractory period at that point. So we'll figure it out. We'll do a live episode again at some point. But other than a live episode, other than the fact that humans can stare at you right now as you talk, what's good, boys? What's new in your worlds?
Not a whole lot. I am podcasting in the daytime, which I know Josh usually does because we podcast at 5 o'clock his time. But it's strange to look out my window and see that it's bright out. I don't know how you guys feel about this timing. We have recorded in the morning at times, but it's just different talking to you. I enjoy noon Eastern time, Josh and Steve.
Yeah, just get those eye crusties off.
Yeah.
Get on the pod. Start talking about some games. Got a little bit of that morning voice going. Get a little bit more deep in your chest.
That is the reaction of someone who does not have an 18-month-old child. I'm not just rubbing the eye crusties off. I have been awake 6 hours at this point. I've already gone on walks. I've already done a bunch of activities. I've served breakfast. So this might as well be an evening recording for me.
Right.
But for those that are in the chat, we will take questions from folks. We'll probably at the end, after we've gone through our games, we'll have the opportunity to, answer any questions folks have. If folks want to donate a question, we'll try to put priorities to the folks that donated their questions first. A little incentive for you to throw some cash at a good cause. But we did, of course, bring a couple of indie picks. And more importantly, we didn't decide who would go first. So my question, boys, is who wants to start?
Do you want me to do the whole the quest log rigmarole since we're here?
Kick us off. Let's do it.
For the new people.
Yeah, okay. If you guys haven't watched IndieQuest or listened, this is the first time you're watching an IndieQuest, I guess. But if you haven't listened to an episode of IndieQuest before, what we do on this show is we build a list called the Quest Log, which is basically this infinite list of awesome indie games. There's 2 sections to it. The main quest, which is a certified banger. Got to say that at least once per episode. This is an easy recommendation to anybody, an incredible experience. It's a game that, hey, you can tell your mom, your dad, your pet lizard, hey, let's go play this game. It's going to be awesome. Or we got the side quest, which is still a recommended game. I'm getting a little nervous. I got to get that out. I'm not used to the live experience.
You got to get down into your stomach again. Get out of your chest up here.
Yeah, I got to pull it up. Anyway. Side quest is it's an awesome game. It's a recommendation, but hey, it might have a caveat. It might be a little uneven in spots, but it's still going to be an awesome game for people who are interested. We're not going to bring a game here we dislike, which is pretty cool. So excited to bring our picks. Who wants to go first?
So I had a thought about who might go first. Why don't we let the chat decide?
Oh,
the one and only time that we can allow someone else to choose for us, which takes it out of our hands, and I love that.
There you go.
All right.
Spam people.
Oh, there you go. Oh, I'm twitching. Picks Josh. Josh, you
Already?
are up.
Oh, dang.
Okay.
There's
Oh man,
consensus here.
I never go first. I think that's the thing here, right? All right, let me
Probably.
pull this up, make sure I have it in front of my face here. Well, I have been talking about this game a little bit, so do you guys have any guesses what my pick's going to be today?
I have a guess for what I hope your pick's going to be.
No,
Oh.
I only know what your pick isn't. Because,
Okay.
again, I was wheeling and dealing behind the scenes. So.
Oh,
Mhm,
wow.
mhm.
I was left in the dark this time. Josh, is it Minishoot Adventures?
Yes, sir. We brought
Yes.
Minishoot Adventures today. Oh man, this game is fantastic. So I really want to talk about it. I'm excited. This is a good avenue to talk about it. It's all right, let's get into this. It's a game developed by Soul Game Studio. It is a top-down twin stick shooter, Zelda-like dungeon crawler, I would say, with some RPG progression systems added to update your little or upgrade your little dude. The art style I would describe as hand drawn, and maybe I'm not trying to use this as a derogatory term, but kind of like a Flash looking game in some aspects, I would say.
Yeah.
It does really work for it and lends itself. The simplicity of the art style really does lends itself to a really fun gameplay experience. I think it makes the game not feel so noisy when you're actually playing it, and it makes it easier to see everything. And of course, this is going to have bullet hell elements, so the screen's going to be filling up with just particle effects and all sorts of things as you play. You see me? I'm like gesticulating more. It's fun. Anyway, Seth, I know you played this game. I know you enjoyed it too. You actually said you were going to bring it at one point, and it kind of just went by the wayside for another pick, right?
Well, yeah, it's one of those things where I put it on the back burner as like I really enjoy this game. I think we all do this, right? Where we play a game that we really like, but are like, maybe I'll bring it at a different point, and then weeks turned into months, and then I was like, Josh, if you're gonna play this, then bring it because I want to chat about it no matter what before the end of the year, and I don't know if I'm gonna bring it anymore, but yeah, I mean, I think that they really cornered the market on genre mashups with this one, right? I mean, two of my favorite all-time genres, bullet hell, shooter, and Zelda-like. Like it feels like maybe it's been done, but I can't recall to this extent that it's been done, and they did such a good job with it. It's weird that it hasn't happened to this point.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking on the presentation a little more, I think that the actual music in the game is might as well talk about it here at the top. Like I think it's kind of subtle and the loops are kind of like there, but when it actually starts kicking in at the boss battles, they really nail it. I think that has some of the best boss music I've heard in a long time. Like you're already there kind of like, when you're focusing on like a as Trav said in the chat here, bullet heck, all the bullets around you, you're kind of like zoned in. So having that like music pumping at the same time just really just makes you feel like, oh yeah, I'm beating some huge beast or something like that, right? So it's pretty cool. I like the exploration in this game. I think it does a really good job of, all right, here's a new dungeon. What do I do in this dungeon? You kind of it actually like pulls you like nicely through the dungeon. You don't really feel like you're stuck ever in this game, which I appreciate in this style of game. And I find that there are some puzzles and some things that happen in the game, some powers that you unlock. I won't spoil it, that really add to the overall like experience of like, oh yeah, that it gets that dopamine hit each time, right? You're like, oh, I just got this new power. You do have a level up system, like I said. So when you destroy the other little ships in the scenery in the world, you pick up like these gems that will give you like it fills up like a bar at the top right of your screen, which gives you XP points, and then you can spend those points to like level up your bullets and your speed and your boost speed, and then eventually when you like Zelda, you get new powers, and when you get those powers, you can actually level those up as well. So it actually rewards you for experiencing the game and exploring everywhere, and killing a bunch of dudes and getting more experience. Because the more you do that, the more powerful you can be, and the more things you can conquer, which is always what you're going for in this style of game. Any questions so far?
I'll just comment like we already mentioned that it's the mashup, right? But we all played a game and had the developer of said game, Archvale, on like 2 years ago. So this is a very similar game to that, but almost goes a step further in that. Like Josh was saying, some of the power-ups you get are so shmup-like, right? You start out with just like a pea shooter, and then you eventually develop into like this massive spread shot. Not much of a spoiler because you probably expect that's going to happen. You literally play as like a ship, right? Like a ship with feelings. Basically, it's like a whole town of different spaceships, right? So very cool in that way. But yeah, I mean, it really nails what it's trying to do. So.
I'm curious. First off, I want to say Mr. Sparkle in chat called it a bullet Helda, which I really appreciate.
I love that.
Subgenre.
Yeah, there we go.
So like a Zelda game is very. When I think of the progression of a Zelda game, you get the items in the dungeon. You obviously use them in that dungeon, but then you end up using them on the overworld to find like extra little heart pieces and containers and stuff. You find like the classic like river that has a wooden post on the other side, and at some point you're gonna find a hook shot that's gonna let you get across it. Are the upgrades that you get in this game like that? Will the like sort of gated exploration style open up other little areas, or are they more like abilities to use in combat?
I would say a little bit of both. I will say there is one specific. This one's a huge spoiler for the game. I mean, it doesn't seem like it has much spoilers, but it does. That will open up the map so much more. So it's like you're going around the map, and there's things that you're kind of like passing by, and you're like, very much like you said, and then you get this power up, and you're like, oh wait, I can just basically go wherever now, and it's just kind of like really opens up everything. So there are a couple moments like that where you're like, this map is an entirely new map because I just got this power up. So pretty much what you said. So exactly, it's really cool. It has a very much an oh-ha moment, like, oh yeah, heck yeah, I'm just gonna spend more time in this map. So there are map pieces that you can find. The map's not really unlocked until you find the map pieces kind of like hidden throughout the areas. And there are different zones where the different bosses will be. And the game does kind of push you along. There's like these little, I guess, purple towers that you can see on the map, and you're kind of trying to go towards those. Or also you can, like Seth said, there's like family members that you can save, and there's like a little hub base that you can like the little ship family members where you can upgrade your ship to have like multiple. Like there's a guy that upgrades your turrets or your ship turrets or guns, whatever, from 1 bullet to like 5 bullets, and make yourself more powerful. There's also guys that sell stuff there, and as you find people around the map, it kind of fills that in. And then you can find those map pieces, and there's a guy that will actually unlock more details on the map for you there too. So it's kind of like, all right, I'm in the area, and then this like radar sound will beep, and then you're like, okay, there's a map piece nearby. So you kind of like explore that area, grab that map piece, and then you're unlocking the map, unlocking more dungeons and puzzle rooms to explore. And like I said, this game just every single minute of it is pulling you towards something else, and it just never has a dull moment. And it's really, really engaging combat too. Of course, it's twin sticks, so maybe not everybody's bag, but honestly, even if you're not a fan of the genre, I think you're gonna enjoy it. And it does have easier difficulties too. So it has like an explorer mode, normal, and then hard. I played on normal. I wouldn't say it was extremely hard. It had a couple of, the boss battles had tough moments, but I wouldn't say it was like impossible on normal. And I haven't tried hard yet. I think I might do another playthrough on hard, like later on this year, or maybe during like my winter break or something like that. But yeah, it's a really rewarding game. I will say, to me, I don't love the art style. I think it's serviceable. It does what it needs to do. It's not going to like grab your attention as much as like something super detailed or anything, but it works for what it does. And I think that it has a really good atmosphere because of the music. Different areas do have different weather effects that will happen. There's like a lightning storm area. There's kind of like a deserty feeling area, what you kind of expect in this type of game. But so far, from playing this game, I couldn't put it down. I started it a couple of weeks ago, and every night I had a chance, I had to jump back in and just get back into it, because feels so good. It's buttery smooth gameplay, which,
Yeah.
hey, yeah, it's awesome. Yeah.
I think I'll agree with you a little bit on the art style. Um, it is, especially at first glance, like quite plain, like very. There's not a lot of shading going on, right? Like the flash
Mhm.
type you said. So it's like this thing is one color, and then this thing is a different color, and then this thing. There's not a whole lot of blending between those. But I will give credit to it. It is very bright and eye
Yeah.
catching. Like if someone were
Mhm.
to look over your shoulder, they'd be like, "Oh, what is that game? Like that looks cool," just because of how bright and colorful it is. Regarding the difficulty, I
Mhm.
actually had a conversation with Mr. Mo about this because Mr. Mo, I believe, played this game as well, and he beat it on normal, if I recall. We were talking in Discord. I started playing this game on normal and made it about an hour into it. And then, of course, as we do, checked achievements and found out that you have to beat the game on hard. So I was like, well, I guess I'm done. I'm going to go back in and start the game on hard. And I'll say it's challenging. I enjoy these kinds of games. It's certainly tough,
Mhm.
but doable on hard. I think that it would be an obstacle certainly, but you could certainly do it on hard. The only differences that I noticed are like, oh, maybe this enemy shoots 3 bullets and on hard they shoot 5 and it's a little bit faster, right? So
Right.
you just kind of have to adapt to that.
That's
Yeah, and sorry, go
I was
ahead.
gonna say that's always nice because some games their hard modes like they're clearly designed for someone who has just finished the game and like is going to bring
Mhm.
all of that skill into a second playthrough. And I don't even necessarily mean like a new game plus playthrough, but like they introduce like very difficult concepts very fast with no real learning curve because they assume you saw them in the back half of a different game. So I'm glad to hear that this game is a little bit more balanced because anytime I can play on a hard difficulty the first shot and it's doable, I like that. I think of like playing like professional on Resident Evil 4. First time I played through that, that's what I did. And it was like a perfect difficulty, even though it was like very, very tight in terms of resources. So I'm always kind of
Yeah.
chasing that feeling.
Yeah, if I remember
Mhm.
correctly, Archvale also has a similar system. Um,
I think
anybody
so, yeah.
Archvale, go back and listen to that episode. It was a long time. It was a great episode with the developer Jamie Bateman. But it also has a hard mode. But that hard mode is almost like artificially hard. Like it's really like you, rather than taking 4 hits, you take 2 hits and you're dead, right? That type of thing. So from what I could tell, Minishoot does not do that. You get hit in Minishoot, you take a heart of damage in
Mhm.
normal or hard. It
Usually.
doesn't matter.
I'd, I'd say usually. There's
Yeah,
some
right. There
exceptions,
are,
yeah.
yeah, there are different enemies. Yes, I forgot about that. But yes,
Yeah.
usually, at least for the majority of the first part of the game. So
Yeah. Let's just say they do the thing where some bullets take a little more damage. I'll just leave it at
Mm.
that. But um, there was a Bone Peddler in the chat here was saying that because of the leveling system, it actually makes the game scale a little bit less hard because you can actually say you're having they do the thing where if you're struggling on a boss you can like leave the boss room and then like go level up a little bit more, get some more points, and then you can also respec your points. So say like, oh, I think I have enough points, but maybe this specific boss just needs a little bit more shoot distance
yeah,
instead.
Mm.
You can like pop a point off of like one of your special attacks and then pop it onto the shoot distance and then maybe potentially beat the boss. So it has a little bit of flexibility in that respect where you can like take a point off here, put it on here, but it really does reward you even more because as you're exploring all these dungeons you might want to do a couple of side dungeons before the main one because you can get some more XP and level up your little guy to be a little more powerful to face the bigger foes. So that's nice. um there are at the bottom of the screen. There are 3 attacks that you do end up getting that do help. I'm not going to spoil all 3 of them, but one of them is like a screen clear, which was just pretty obvious for the style of game. And then there's a couple of other ones that do help that are kind of like you can pop in the middle of battle. So you have your twin stick shooting, and then you can like hit the bumpers, and I think it's like X on a Xbox controller to pop another one of those attacks. So it does give you a little bit more flexibility, and as you're like shooting the guys, those bars will fill up to get those attacks ready. So if you know, like, okay, I've done this boss 3 or 4 times, and this area is just so chaotic with all the bullets coming at me, okay, I have a screen clear ready to go for that moment, and then you could pop it and then get through that moment. So, just strategizing that stuff, to me, it's just like it just scratches a certain itch that not many games do. So super fun gameplay, great decent art style. I like it. Great music. Any questions before I put it on the quest log? I know I get right into it, but hey, what do you guys think?
Guido mentioned in the chat that this is only on PC, and
Yeah.
it is currently. To me, that's a huge bummer. I feel like the audience for this game would be massive if it wasn't only on PC. It would make so much sense on Switch, like Guido said, and have it handheld. You could play it on your Steam Deck, of course, but or PlayStation and actually have trophy support there for those perverts, right? So, but yeah, it's just an incredible experience. You might have touched on it, Josh, but there are also, like every Zelda game, there are secrets all over the place, which
Oh
is
yeah.
always super fun.
Yeah,
And
and go ahead.
go
Sorry.
ahead. Well, they're just
Uh,
quite well hidden, right? I mean, until you start to realize what you're looking for, and then you're like, how many of those things did I miss up to this
mhm.
point, right?
Yeah, a lot of it's not like blowing up a wall in Zelda, but there are areas that'll have like false walls. So you don't even
Yes.
realize that they're false walls, and you can like, oh man, how you the first time you see that you're like, oh great, I probably missed 15 of these and didn't even realize. So you kind
Right.
of have to double back and look around, you know. But
And
like I
it was
said, good.
it was probably purely because like I remember the first one I ever discovered is because I'm fighting enemies on that screen and kind of backing into the wall, and then all of a sudden
Love
I'm through the
that.
wall. Like what? what?
Yeah,
How many of those
exactly.
were there? Yeah. So
Yeah.
That's one of the best feelings you can have. Accidentally discovering something in a
yes.
game and then being like, wait a minute, hold
Yep.
the phone, and it reshaping like what you've been doing up to that point. Josh, you mentioned that there was like as you're getting like map pieces, that there was like a little like ding or radar or something that like told you there's something to look for. Is
Mhm.
that true for all the collectibles in the game? Like, is there a way like at the end of the game to hunt them down with some kind of assistance, or do you just have to like pixel hunt scour the whole map?
So most of the collectibles, I would say, are just saving your family. So like at the base, there's like a little homestead you can go into, and then as you're saving them, they're kind of just chilling around a table. So there's multiple of those guys, and let's just say the more you unlock of those guys, there is some special things you can unlock there, and there's
Mm.
also these like little ships that are races in the game, and you can race them around certain areas. Some of them are harder than others, so you might want to make sure you're leveled up to a certain point before you try a race in certain areas as you're progressing, and that will actually unlock like another dungeon to do, which is pretty cool. To answer your question, there is little radar guy that will add all the dungeon openings to your map with a little green check mark next to it. So
Oh,
if you find everything. So if you go into a dungeon and you get out and there's still not a check mark, you're missing something. So okay, and maybe I need to double back, check all the rooms, make sure I didn't miss anything, or maybe I need a special power to get to a certain room or something like that. And then there's also like for the family members, they will actually have a little icon that looks like a little version of them as an icon form pointing towards certain dungeons to go save those guys too. So definitely leads you by the hand, like, okay, you did not get everything that dungeon. Go back and try again,
mm,
basically. So
I
so
love that.
it has the completionist mentality to it, and it makes it very easy to collect everything and do everything. So
Yeah. It's very much that modern quality of life improvement that most of these types of games should do, right? Like Crypt Custodian did something similar as well, where you can purchase a way to go and find the extra items. This does the same thing. You have the little icons, and as soon as that dungeon has a green check mark, you never go back. There's no reason to ever go back there. Like
Yeah,
you're done. So it's pretty cool.
that's one of my like that's one of my happy places, my zen moments in games, is that like right before the finale cleanup where you're just sweeping and unlocking everything and watching yourself get more powerful. So I'm always hoping that a
Hmm.
game like this will give me that opportunity.
that
For
also
sure.
does the awesome thing. I mean, this is light spoilers really, but at the very end of the game, after you complete the final act and boss and everything, it just drops you back in the map. Like, go have fun and collect stuff. So you can still beat the game and then have like a couple hours of just like farting around, getting all the stuff, which is cool. I appreciate that. All right, I think I'm gonna put it on the quest log. The first live quest log placement here.
A lot of pressure. Don't mess it up.
And the question I'm seeing here from Guido and a couple other people talking about it is how much bonergy does this game have? It has a lot of bonergy because it's a main quest game. I
Yeah.
absolutely adore this game. I think that you guys should give it a try, even if you're even remotely interested. If you like Zelda dungeon crawlers, if you like twin stick shooters, you're gonna have a lot of fun with this game. And I honestly feel like I could recommend it to anybody, even if you're not a fan of either genre. Like, you're gonna have something that you enjoy from this. And if it's a little bit challenging for you, and this is not really your style of game, the Explorer mode gives you like a lot of health, and it's not as hard, and it's still a lot of fun to play. So I would say try it on a not as hard difficulty if harder like twin stick shooters aren't your thing. So
Awesome.
check it out, Minishoot Adventures.
I'm not surprised to hear that it's a main quest. I feel like this is one of the. I haven't even played it, and I already feel this way, that it's one of the like underground banger indie games from this year. I've only met like, well, now you, Seth, and a couple other people that have played it, but of the like the 4 or 5 people that have checked it out, every single one of them was like extremely positive. So I have a feeling that this is gonna like sneak on to a few tastemaker lists come end of year time.
Yeah. I hope that in 2025 or the future it gets ports to consoles because it absolutely deserves to be on at least Switch, right? Get that audience number up. But yeah, it's fantastic. Exactly where I would have put it, Josh. Wonderful placement. It's for me a top tier 2024 game. It's really good.
Yeah, seems like a perfect game for the Steam Deck too.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, there you go. Minishoot on the main quest. We'll leave it to the chat again, folks. Who do you want to go next?
And I do want to say, Trav posted this in the chat here. Minishoot's a main quest game, but also what's a main quest is donating to a charity. We're doing this for the International Association for Suicide Prevention. The link's in the chat on the Twitch here. You can also find it on the side of the page if you want to donate for the awesome charity. So who wants to go next?
It looks like they have nominated Guido and Pam have both said me. So I suppose I will be the meat in the sandwich today.
Kind of feels like Pam was voting for me not to go next, but you do.
She'll pay $100 if you just don't talk anymore. Which we'll take it. You know what I mean? It's for a good cause. All right. So speaking of, I won't say bangers because I'm not going to give anything away just yet. Every game that we bring is a very much a recommended game. But this game to me is a bit underground in a similar way as Minishoot Adventures is. So this is a good little segue here. I am bringing a game. I actually only minorly chatted with the boys about it and a little bit. I know that Steve knows because of his stream the other night what genre this game is. But I'm bringing a game that is called Cato Buttered Cat. How much do you guys know about Cato?
I know literally nothing about it, although I did know you were going to bring it because Steam outed you while I was streaming the other day. I saw you were multitasking while I was playing a different game, and it popped up a little notification in the corner. Someone forgot to go incognito mode. So I was like,
no.
I was like, and now I get to know what he's going to bring.
It's because of those Dokapon play sessions. No, I don't think Petey's in chat. But
yeah, I've seen this game around. I know the premise, but I'd like to hear what it's all about.
Yeah, Josh, I did notice that you have Cato on your wish list. Seems like you have a lot of games on your wish list on Steam. Every time I go across a game, like, oh, Josh has that on his wish list. Yeah. Josh has that on his wish list. But that is the way to do it, right? But
yeah, I just click with that wish list button. You know, support the devs, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Supposedly, as far as I know, it does. So yeah,
for sure. All right, so Cato released September 5th, 2024, this year, of course. Developed by Team Wool and published by G-Cores Publishing. And it is only on, this is why I say that it's probably a little under people's radar currently. It is only on PC. You can get it on either Steam or itch, from what I can tell. So, the premise. It is called Cato Buttered Cat. I have to ask the question of you two. Do you guys know what the buttered cat paradox is?
Uh, no. I mean, a cat would certainly not enjoy having butter on it. Although it depends on the cat, because my cat's getting pretty old. At this point, my son grabs him with hands full of yogurt. He doesn't even care. Doesn't even bother cleaning himself off. He just lets it mat up.
So a cat famously always lands on its feet, right? You drop a cat from any height and it always flips over, right? And it always will land on its feet. Toast, buttered toast, also does what? Always lands what side down?
Butter side.
Buttered. So the buttered cat paradox is basically strapping a piece of buttered toast to the top of a cat and dropping it and see what happens, right? Because they always happen. So what happens? This game plays on that theory by you play as a cat and a piece of toast that has butter. And when you combine them, you can, I'll get into a lot of this when we get into the meat and potatoes, the gameplay section, but you can jump infinitely, right? Like Kirby or something like that. You spin around forever in the air, and until you let go, then the cat will come down and land on its feet, but you can just keep on going forever and ever if you want to. So that gets us right to, the genre soup that we love to do. It is a 2-character simultaneous puzzle platformer, and of course it is the buttered cat version of that. If you guys are looking at screenshots, it is very cartoony pixel art game. Extremely clean. I think it looks quite good. In contrast with something like Minishoot, it has that chunkier feel, more like less flash, more, this is retro looking, right? It honestly reminds me of a lot of the Celeste art style in a way. I mean, colors are different, of course, and things are going to look a lot different, but it just gives me that vibe of Celeste. I mean, your sprites are bigger, so Celeste is Madeline, right? Madeline, Celeste is smaller, but yeah, I mean, this is just a incredible looking game to me. The characters are adorable. The cat sleeps and purrs when you've been idle, which you're going to do a lot in this game. It is a puzzle platformer, so you're just going to have to look at screens for a while to kind of get your bearings and figure out what you're doing. The first time it happened to me, I was sitting and looking, and this cat starts purring, and it almost sounds like a disk drive, especially when it's coming from your computer speakers. So I'm like, what is going on with my computer? Like, why does it sound like that? I know I don't have a disk drive on this laptop. It's just like, and I'm like, what? And then you find out and you figure out it's the cat. The music, it is, I would say, very good, very catchy. To me, maybe and this is not to take away from it, it's one of the weaker parts of this game, but I was still, having spent plenty of time in these levels, in these different worlds, I would stare at the screen and these songs would get just lodged in my brain. And I would go to bed and they would just keep repeating in my head until I fell asleep. So is it the best soundtrack of all time? I would say no, but it is very serviceable, and really certain tracks are really good. The World 5 music specifically, which is the last world, is amazing, incredible, and it will probably show up on an IQ OST in the future.
In that game's defense, and in a lot of other games' defense, I feel bad for any developer making a puzzle platformer putting music into their game, because you have such a balancing act that you have to strike, because you can't have your music be like too over the top or too dense or even like too catchy in some instances. Otherwise, your brain is going to like tune into that a little bit and have less energy to focus on the puzzles. But you also don't, if you just make it like, if you turn the dial too far towards elevator music, then it's unremarkable and people don't really think about it too fondly. And
yes,
a lot of games like, the Limbos of the world solve it by being like, we're just going to be moody and really not have that much music at all. So the fact that there are catchy songs that you took away from it, I think is actually a pretty strong benefit, as long as it didn't get in the way of you solving puzzles.
Right. Yeah, I think it falls neatly between the Limbo and the Celeste or Super Meat Boy, right? Where it's not, not frenetic action, so you don't need that upbeat, moving and shaking type of music, but it's still, you're moving around quite fluidly in comparison to a lot of other puzzle platformers too. Like it's still very much a platformer, so it makes sense to have fairly upbeat music.
Right.
Josh, were you going to say something? Yep.
Yeah, I was gonna say the thing about the puzzle platforming, especially if you're sitting in a room and you're trying to like piece it out, you don't want that loop to be irritating either. Like just have a very like obnoxious loop over and over again, and it has to be like just subtle enough and just catchy enough to like be like, okay, I'm nodding my head along with the music and I'm solving these puzzles. So yeah,
for sure, for sure. All right, this game sort of has a story. It isn't loose necessarily, but it's just you're not playing this game for its story. I mean, some puzzle platformers have great stories, but this one, it is just kind of there. So at the very beginning, you kind of find out that there's a machine in your hub world where you get to choose levels that has broken. And pieces of it have been stolen by various boss creatures, basically. And so you have to go and retrieve them. The machine makes milk. It is literally a milk machine. So, being that the cat is a cat and likes milk, and the toast needs butter, they kind of are in cahoots, and they go and retrieve these pieces just to make milk again. Like, that's the whole point of what you're doing in this game. It's perfectly fine. Like, it is what it is. It's just not ground shaking. It's not, like I said, it's just not, it's not why you're playing it, but it is adorable, and the different lines. It's funny because all the cat does is meow, like that's all the cat does, but like the toast can speak like a person and is very witty and funny and like super smart for whatever reason. It's just kind of a funny dynamic duo, right? It's almost like Pinky and the Brain or something like that. The cat just doesn't speak at all, and then so very cool. I enjoyed it for what it is, and especially the dialogue that is had when you go into certain areas and when you're in the hub world and things, and things happen. The toast says a lot of funny things. Any questions, either from you two or from the chat, before I get into how this game plays, which is why we're here?
I don't have questions, but I really wish I had a soundboard so I could clip you saying, "The machine makes milk," and play that back on command whenever I want to. It just seems like it'll be useful.
Hey, generally someone makes a video out of this live stream and could very well clip that, so we can enjoy that at a later date.
They like a songify you. Just the machine makes milk. The machine makes milk.
It's kind of funny. I never really thought about it, but there's no cow involved unless it's somehow in the background. It's just a milk making machine.
That's because it's the machine, man. Who needs cows when you got the
machine? All right. On to how this game plays. The coolest thing, the best thing, the greatest thing about this game is that, yes, when you combine the cat and the toast, they can fly, as I said before, basically infinitely. You just keep pressing the A button and you're just hopping up towards the ceiling, a la Kirby or, something like Flappy Bird or something like that, right? But the best thing about this game is that you actually control the two characters separately and can move them both simultaneously if you wish. So the cat moves with the D-pad, and that's it. That's the only way you can move the cat. Basically left and right. There are certain sections where you can actually climb up walls with the cat. But for the most part, just left and right is all the cat will move. The toast also sort of moves left and right, but instead it moves with the shoulder buttons. So you can actually click, like left trigger, let's say, and it will show you a trajectory, a dotted line of where the toast can jump. So the toast will actually flip through the air and land on the other side. Always buttered side down, of course. If you hold the left trigger, you can get a shorter trajectory, but longer trajectory, right? So you can go further, but you're not actually going to reach as high. And certain times you actually want to reach higher when you want the toast to land maybe on the ceiling, for example, for certain puzzles, right? Mm-hmm. So that is how it plays. And a lot of puzzles require you to actually move the cat and the toast at the same time to actually accomplish something. Steve, it seemed like you were going to say something. Yep, go ahead.
Does the game Is it asking you to do these things simultaneously? Like, is it ripping your brain in half in the way that, like, Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons does, where you're, like, trying to keep both sides straight in your head and, like, not cross the streams? Or is it slower paced where you're more moving them independently to put them into positions and onto switches and stuff like that?
I would say it's 90% of the time you are moving them independently. It is not like a required skill for you to program your left hand to part of your brain and your top two fingers to the other part of your brain, right? So it's not that intense, but there are certain times when you have to think about it, right? I need to move the cat here and I need the toast to be coming over here at the same time. That will kind of get me into some reasons that you might not want them to be together. So there's like these foggy sections that are either dark or translucent, depending on whether you have the toast and cat together or not. Those are basically either passable or impassable, depending on how the orientation of the cat and the toast. So if they're together, sometimes they're going to be passable and sometimes they won't, and then vice versa. The game does that so that you can't just, I'll just get the cat and the toast together and then I'm free to go wherever the heck I want, right? I can move as I want. Instead, it makes it so it's impassable and you have to try to figure out how to get both the cat and the toast up above or through that in order to actually move them together, right? So in general, the name of the game is combine the toast and the cat, but the game won't let you do that at all times. So,
yeah.
Okay.
Controls are super tight. There are obstacles for each character. So the cat obviously can't jump. So if you're in a pit, you can't move anywhere. You can move back and forth, but you can't move anywhere. If you have the toast with the cat, the toast can jump out of that pit. And perhaps, like I said, there's that fog, so they have to be separate. So you got to get the toast out, and then you got to get the toast somewhere else to do something, right? So that's part of it. There's also like icy floors and walls that if you get the toast onto those things, the toast can no longer jump. So, you try to press the R2 or whatever on the Xbox or whatever it is, but right trigger, there we go. And it just jumps in the air forever. Like you can't actually move left or right because I assume it's slippery and it won't allow the toast to move from that, right? So those are some of the examples. There are certain, like I said before, climbable walls for the cat, like where it almost looks like a scratching post, and the cat can climb up those walls. So in that case, you see something like that, okay, I know I'm going to have to use that for the cat for some reason. Got to keep that in the back of my head just in case I need to get the cat out of here while the toast is doing something else. There are also what I call pressure plates, right? Character-specific pressure plates. One has a toast symbol and the other one has a cat symbol. Sometimes you're going to have to get the cat onto that pressure plate to open up a door, to get the toast through that door, and then go land on the toast, and then that opens up something else, and you're kind of doing that back and forth. It's quite unique, especially as the game goes on. I don't want to spoil a lot of things, but you can actually get extra cats in Toast eventually, but they actually behave differently than your main cat in Toast. Like you don't have control over them. So it really plays with your brain in a way where, yes, I have this extra toast, but it doesn't do the things my regular toast does, right? But I need it to be on this pressure plate so that I can actually take my toast that I can control and move it somewhere else, right? So that's the kind of fun thing that this game starts doing, especially from mid of World 2 and World 3 on to the 5th world. Speaking of those worlds, there are 5 of them. And there are, I would say, roughly between 20 and 30 levels in each world. Think of something like Super Meat Boy, right? You can pick a world in Super Meat Boy, and then you kind of go along this path through the entire Super Meat Boy, right? Each level is a different level. That is exactly how Cato works. If you need to exit a stage because either you're stumped or you just want to be done, the game saves automatically right at where you're at, and you can go right back in the next time. The big thing about these levels is sometimes there is a single puzzle in that level. So you'll be able to see a looping black hole looking thing that you have to eventually get your cat and toast to. It's always slightly off the ground, so you must have both cat and toast together to get into it. You have to flip up and actually move. Even if you can manage to get one of the characters to go through it, they don't get to go anywhere until they're combined. But you have to actually get to those to leave. There are certain levels that have just a single screen puzzle that you just have to solve it. You can see it right when you get in. That's all you have to do. There are other levels where there are multiple 2, 3, even 4 puzzles that you have to solve to actually get to the point where you can warp out. So that's kind of interesting to me, because a lot of these games is like, okay, it's either going to be single screen or it's going to be multiple room type thing, and this just plays with those expectations and does both. And I like the variety that it offers from that standpoint. There are secret paths, so I mostly beelined it, but there were so many times when I found, like Minishoot, Josh, a false wall that I could go through. And the only reason I find this out is because maybe I send cat, there are pipes, right? There are pipes that can accelerate cat in a certain like chamber. So you start to like spin around, go fast like you're in a washing machine, then you can fly out really quickly. And sometimes you fly out and you hit another wall, and you're trying to figure out how to solve the puzzle. So it's like, whatever, that's something that's going to happen. But every once in a while you'd fly out and hit that wall and it's actually false, and you're in a different wall. So nice. Very, very cool in that way. We've been getting donations. Appreciate everyone for donating. I just want to mention.
I also was going to say, you beelined it. Did you? I was going to make a joke. Say, oh yeah, you butterlined it. Okay.
There you go, Josh.
Yeah, you got to get a king joke in there at least once.
Yeah, he's workshopping it live on air.
Yeah, right. This is how stand-up is made. I need to get some notes from Trav, but you know how it is.
Right. Trav, drop the notes in the chat, please. You can also get skins for both cat and toast. Very cool. In a similar way that you actually find the secrets. Sometimes you just walk into a room and there's a skin there, and kind of cool in that way. Most of the time the cat just changes colors from what I've seen, but the toast can actually change into different objects. So I ended up with my toast being a frying pan at the end, which was fun.
I like that.
As there is in a lot of these games, there is a hint system. So one of the best things about this game, I use the hint system. I would say, I don't know, maybe 10% of the puzzles, they get pretty challenging at certain points. The hint system is great in that all it does is give you like cartoony pictures of your characters and where to place them. It doesn't tell you how to get them there. And how to get them there is often the puzzle. Sometimes I know, like I've been staring at this puzzle for 10 minutes and I've tried so many different things. I'm like, I don't know what to do here. So I'm like, okay, I'll use a hint. I know it's going to tell me where to put my characters because I already know that that's where they're supposed to go. I use the hint. Boom. It gives me the exact result that I know I need. It doesn't tell me how to actually get them there. Every once in a while to give you like a graphic of moving your character, like multiple different pictures in a row that make a little bit more sense. But for the most part, I actually like the hint system a lot. I don't feel like I'm cheating when I use the hint system, which you can often do. It just like maybe in some of these games, it just gives you like a slow-mo video of how you're supposed to move your character, right? Or whatever. And I don't want that. Just give me give me just a little tip. That's all I need.
Yeah. Man, now you're clip farming, buddy. All right. I see what you're doing. I gotta say, I didn't bring it. I mean, maybe I'll do a back-to-back too for if people donate for it, throw a bunch of money and I'll break the rules and bring 2 games.
Yeah.
But I didn't bring it. But I see now why you were saying how similar this game is to Mind Over Magnet that I streamed the other day. It's like a 1-for-1 in a lot of cases. Like almost everything you're saying about like the 2 character system, the hint system, everything. I'm like, that like perfectly maps onto Mind Over Magnet. It's kind of wild.
Yeah. I guess the second character, because I watched the majority of that stream that you did, Steve. We're here now, and people donate if you really want to hear about this other game.
Yeah.
I don't know how much time we'll even have left. Depends on what Steve's got, but the second character in Mind Over Magnet is kind of like the magnet, right? But you can't move that magnet freely.
Yeah, right. You have to pick them up and throw them around.
Yeah, that was the big, from what I noticed, that was the big difference in the two games is both of my characters have independent brains, basically. I don't need to, I mean, yes, sometimes I can take the toast to a higher place with the cat if I'm allowed to jump, and then I can drop the toast off and move. But each of them operate completely separately from one another if you need them to. So that's the big difference to me in these two games. I think the last thing I have is death. So every once in a while, you're moving platforms. Sometimes you have, a skinny platform that you put one of your characters on, and you press a pressure plate, and it snaps, right? Everyone can actually see my hand for this one. It snaps up, and that makes the character that was already sitting on it fly to the other way, so you can actually get over to that. That happens. There are also times when you have like a giant moving block that moves back and forth with pressure plates. So if I have either of those two characters on the other side between that and a wall, they die. If there's like lava in the level, which happens, they die if they jump into it. Cool thing about this game is if there are, I mentioned obviously that there are multiple puzzle levels at certain points. If I'm on the last puzzle of that level, I can see my goal and I'm ready to leave. You do not, if you die, you do not go all the way back to the first puzzle. You stay on the puzzle you're on, so you don't have to redo. I mean, even if you do, like every once in a while, I've pressed start and clicked restart level, and you go all the way to the back that way. And it's like, oh, dang it, now I have to redo this. But you already know the solution at that point, so it's not that big of a deal. I will mention that there's also an icon in the upper left-hand corner that's like a refresh button. You can click that with your mouse, and if you do that, rather than restarting the level, it will just restart the section of the level you're on. So if you get the characters in places where you can't actually get them out, because that does happen, you'll have to restart and just click that. So while I don't really know how to get to that with the controller only, so that's something they'd have to figure out. Either I'm stupid, which is very possible, or they would have to figure out how to program that in with a controller if and hopefully when they do port this to consoles at some point. But for now, I just use my mouse.
Do you think is it verified on Steam Deck? I mean, I guess I can look, but would it work on the Steam Deck? Because this is one yeah, it's verified, so I don't know if there's something they do to fix that.
This is something that I should know. Is Steam Deck touchscreen?
It does have a touchscreen, yeah. So maybe they expect you to use the touchscreen a little bit
for that, right? For that button. But other than that, I never use the mouse for anything. So I don't see why you couldn't just.
PS5 controller has a touchscreen built right into the controller, so let's port this bad boy to PlayStation.
Yeah, you could just, if it had an on-screen cursor, then that's all you would really need. But yeah, I mean, it would play marvelously. And honestly, I feel like this game is, the developers of this game are doing themselves a bit of a disservice not having this on at least Switch, because this feels like a handheld game all day. Like Steam Deck would be great for this game. I mean, puzzle platformers are just good on handhelds to begin with, right?
Yeah.
Portable, I can put it down after I finish the puzzle. This game would be perfect in that handheld form. But that will bring me to my verdict and where I'm putting this on the quest log. Unless you have anything else to add, either you two or anyone in chat. I haven't been following chat. I don't know if anybody.
I've been looking at it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. We should have asked for Josh's game too. If anybody has any questions about this game, please let us know so we can answer it live on air rather than get your angry emails later. Right. You wouldn't believe how scathing our inbox is. No, it's actually good. While people have a second to type it out, I am curious, like, where would you put it in terms of difficulty? Like, how often did you get, like, really stumped, feel like you didn't know what to do, etc.?
So How Long to Beat has this game at 6.5 hours. I beat this game Steam time in 11. There was a lot beyond just idle me staring at the screen. There was a pretty solid amount of idle me walking away from the computer. So I would think I'm probably closer to 9 or so hours in beating this game. Main plus sides is at like 10.5, 11. So I guess that falls into that. I will say right now, especially before I put it on the quest log, I am not a puzzle platformer guy. Like Steve is a puzzle platformer guy. Josh is more of a puzzle platformer guy than I am, I would say. I would say it's middle of the road genre for me. It's not an FPS, which I can't stand, and it's not a Zelda-like or roguelite or bullet hell or something, which I love. So, in saying that, I did find, especially World 3 for some reason, a lot of the puzzles to be quite challenging. I use the hint system somewhat. I mean, I said about 10% of the time. That's probably true. So that's not too much. I will say that based on my prior experience and everyone listening to this, I only ever had to look up the solution to a puzzle one time. So I went to YouTube. I'm like, I cannot figure this out. And of course, when I went and looked at it, I was like, I'm an idiot. It's almost
roll
like
your eyes, right?
Sometimes the way that these games play, and especially this game, it makes you think so far outside the box that sometimes you just got to step right back into that box, buddy. Like you just got to get in that box. Yes. Like it really plays with your expectations to a point where you just don't know exactly what you're doing at certain points. But it's like, oh, all I actually had to do was just move the cat off that platform. I am completely free to do that. Why am I not doing that?
Yes.
And I mentioned in Steve's stream when he was playing Mind Over Magnet, because I was playing this game along like same time and all this week. I was like, these games really know how to make a mountain out of a molehill. They really mess with your brain to make you think you got to do more than you actually have to. So,
yes.
And I think that was the case for me and the one I had to look up, and a lot of the ones that I really sat and looked at for a while. I will say there's a lot of very creative puzzles that were like, wow, that's excellent. That is good thinking, good stuff on that front. So, any other questions before
a couple?
Yeah,
a couple from the chat. We got Guido asking, "Is it ethical to eat toast after you play the game?"
I ate toast during.
There you go.
Wow, disrespectful.
I showed it.
Okay,
I showed it.
And then Top Spot asked if did you beat it?
I did beat it. I beat it yesterday. I took the day off yesterday because I was a little bit nervous that I was not going to beat it. I beat it by around noon yesterday, and like I said, 11 hours. I will preface this all. I should have prefaced this all by saying I actually played a different game before I played Cato. I knew I wanted to play Cato before the end of the year. The other game that I was playing was like taking me way too long. It would have taken me 20 hours or something, and I was like, well, I got to pivot. So that's where I got a little bit nervous. In my opinion, this game is best played when you don't have a time crunch and you can just play it at your pace. Yes.
I got to say, that's the way to do it, man. All right? To take a full day off to play a game, but you get to tell yourself and your boss, it's for charity, man. All right?
Yeah,
I'm taking this day off for charity. So
I'm not even putting in a vacay day.
Yeah.
You know what? Why? I'm doing the world a service here.
Yeah, you guys have any kind of matching fund system? Will you buy me an equally priced game on Steam if I finish this one up for charity?
Exactly. Okay. Was that all the questions? I believe so, right?
Yeah, and I do want to shout out Go Hobo Go, $50 donation. So that's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
appreciate that so much, Go Hobo Go. All right. So quest log placement. About as easy of a main quest as I could ever main quest. I'm not sure if I gave that away. If I didn't, that's great. I hope I didn't. But it is possibly one of the best puzzle platformers I've ever played. It's awesome.
Dang.
It's amazing. Hopefully I didn't sound too like, oh, this game's great before getting to this point. The way it, like I said, messes with your expectations of how this game should play. It's just an incredible experience. I will say, Steve, to touch one more time on Mind Over Magnet, it's like, I'm not saying that's not a good game. It looked like a great game. But it's like they took those ideas and then just expounded upon them, evolved upon them, and just made this really meaty, chunky experience that I feel if anyone out there is looking for the best of what 2024 has to offer and wants to play these games before year's end, you should find a way to play Cato. You got to do it.
That's disrespectful.
I gotta
for
play
you to
it,
say, man. All right. Now you see, Josh brought Minishoot. That was already on my list. You know, I went on my phone while we're talking. I bumped it up a few notches, but now I got to add a whole new entry to my to-do list. I only got a month.
All I'll say is, for anyone out there, Steve, Josh, that wants to experience the best of 2024, at least get it and know that maybe you're going to play it in the future or wait for a console release if that's what you want to do, and experience like the first world, right? Like I feel it's worth experiencing, especially from a small Chinese dev. Like it's just so good. I mean, it's got like 1,000 overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam, which is solid certainly, but it's been out for a couple months. I feel like this is almost in the same tier as nearly the same tier as like a Celeste. Like it's
Wow.
really that good. It's not the same. It's a platformer, but other than that, it's not the same type of game. But
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Josh used to just throw hands at
yes,
Yeah, I'm like, let's go. How long did it take you? That's my question.
yeah. So I mentioned probably around 9 hours for me.
Oh, okay. I must have just missed it.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, cool.
So yeah, I mean but like I said, don't go at your own pace. Play a couple puzzles here and there. Don't feel rushed. You kind of get this mental fatigue from these types of games. They're best just experienced at your own pace. Some people probably just chug the whole thing in a couple days, I'm sure, but some people just need a couple weeks perhaps. But yeah,
Nice.
that's it.
Cato
Buttered cat.
Top asks us, how did you fear about the games you brought? Which is an interesting phrasing to that question. Are you asking how afraid I was of the game that I brought? I'll say my nervousness was like a 2 out of 10, but I always have a 2 out of 10 nervousness, all right?
I was so confused for a minute. I'm like, did he mean feel? Because that's a weird way to misspell feel. And then I see below he said here.
Oh,
So-
here. That makes much more sense.
That makes a lot of sense. I heard about this game. I think it was just Steam perusing like I always do. It was like a recommended based on other games you play. I think the top 2 games that it recommends it based on is Pizza Tower and Planet of Lana. And I would say it's almost like a kind of almost like a perfect mixture of those 2 games. It does
There you go.
art style and everything. It's really cool.
Yeah, I heard about Minishoot. I think from the Fire Escape podcast, which is like a video game podcast. That's where I heard that one. So there you go.
And I'll tell you how I found out about mine as I get into it then. I feel like we're all really leaning into our sort of stereotypical element here. Drachma's always just deep diving in his Steam recommendations. Josh is always listening to a bunch of podcasts and getting recommendations. And I'm just playing the most popular thing I can find because I'm not a tastemaker, all right? I'm the one that's optimizing the SEO for the team.
I appreciate you.
Appreciate you too, buddy. I brought today, we're going to talk about Neva, very popular indie game that came out not long ago. Developed by Nomada Studio, published by Devolver Digital. So check another one off of our Devolver Digital box.
Heck yeah.
And our slow, unintentional quest to bring all those games to the show. The reason that Josh just dropped adorable little Neva is because this is a game, a 2D puzzle platformer, follows nicely after what Seth just brought, with influences that I would say range from like definitely Princess Mononoke and some Ghibli stuff to Eco and a couple other things that I'll get into. The core conceit, like the main gameplay, is that you play as a woman and you have a small wolf, or I guess it seems to be a non-real animal. It's wolf adjacent, but it's got a little bit more of like a fantasy angle to
like
it.
antlers, like
Yeah.
mystical looking and like hulking almost. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huge. Yeah.
And it's and you are controlling the woman, and then you are guiding this what I will from now on I'm just going to refer to as a wolf. You're guiding the wolf around, and you do so. You can press a button that calls out to it, and every time you call out, it's got a bunch of little recorded voice lines that say Neva, Neva, because Neva is the name of the wolf pup. And if you play on PlayStation, it comes out of the speaker of your controller, so it's very cute. So this game, I think most people will be familiar with it just from looking at the art style, because it is the second game from Nomada Studio following Grease, depending on however you pronounce it personally. And it looks very similar. It's, as far as I know, it's not a sequel. It might be one of those things where like maybe they take place in the same universe, but these games are so kind of like, abstract and artistic that it's not like there's actual story connections in any meaningful way. But if you told me that it was the sequel and you called it agree to, I would just agree. I'd be like, yeah, that makes total sense to me. And I found out about this game because everyone has found out about this game. It's extremely popular. It's hard to avoid it if you've watched any coverage of games on anything. So, set up for the game. The story starts out, you're walking across this like beautiful open green grassy field. There's actually a lot of points in this game that strike me as very Planet of Lana-esque, where you get just that like gorgeous blue sky and just like bright colors, like sunny day energy, which is not particularly common. And so you're walking across this open field, you as the woman, and then there's actually two of these creatures with you. There's like an adult, an elder one, and the wolf pup. And then as you're going, a bird flying over drops out of this, like is flying, and then just suddenly dies and falls in front of you, and then a bunch of other birds, pum 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 pum, all fall at the same time. And so you like walk up to it, you're all concerned, and when you pick up this bird, it is like the color has drained out of it and it's sprouting these black flowers. So it seems to be some sort of like illness or plague or something that's spreading across the land. And then you look off into the distance, and this giant wave of kind of like inky black shadow is charging towards you. You pull out your sword to like face it head on. It washes over you and your two animal companions, and you're fighting off these sort of like shadow creatures in this black shadowy void. As a part of that, the older of the two animal companions does not survive the battle. And then in the aftermath of that, you kind of wake up, and it's you and the wolf pup, and now you and Neva are going to be navigating around the world. So that all happens within like the first 2 minutes of the game. So it's expected. Now it's not spoilers, and now you kind of know what it's going to be like. So the actual navigation of the environment, the actual sort of setup is, like I mentioned, you run around, you have a double jump, you have a dash, and you'll do a lot of platforming and like light puzzle solving, and then you can call out to Neva at any point to have them go to a particular location and interact with something. So sometimes that's something optional, like very early on in the game, you'll find these little trees with fruit. You can call Neva over, and Neva will have a little snack. You know, they'll chomp down on some of those fruit and hang out for a minute. Or sometimes you're having to kind of like encourage Neva to jump across a gap of stone that they're maybe too nervous to do on their own. So you go to the other side, you stand on the edge, and you're like, Neva, come on. And eventually they'll like work up the courage and they'll jump over. Neva will... Oh, go ahead.
I gotta ask, the Neva calling reminds me so much of calling Mui in Planet of Lana. Is it similar where you're like, you can't control this character directly? It's always by the woman, right? So you just kind of have to lead that character to where you need it to go.
Yep, exactly. They're completely independent, and you're just calling. So very much like that, or that's why I said that this game has very eco influence, which I know I'm always scrambling for. It's very eco and Yorda. You know, you're trying to guide them to safety, or just get them usually just from one end of the screen to the other. And so Neva will start out the game very distractible, like they're a little puppy. And so they'll stop and they'll play with, like, you know, willow branches that are hanging down, or they'll want to chase butterflies and things like that. And you're almost having to, now kind of Last Guardian, if we're going to keep the Ueda influences going, you're almost having to like redirect, get them to like stay on task. Oh, see, Top Spot also said Last Guardian. We're very smart. We're very much in lockstep. This is why Top and I are best friends. Yeah, you're having to kind of like redirect and be like, hey, pay attention, Neva, over here. Come on. Again, it's the perfect game.
I'm sorry. I thought you were talking to me. I was. Yeah. I was kidding. Okay, go ahead.
Josh, eyes up here.
I tear it. They're right here. Yeah.
So that's how Neva will move around. You know, you're kind of getting Neva to pay attention, cross gaps, stuff like that. You will move around with a double jump and a dash. It's a very momentum focused well, not momentum, that's the wrong word, but you have a lot of freedom in your platforming, a lot of like expression. It reminds me almost of Mario Odyssey in a way, where you do that like jump, cap throw, dive, second dive, and you feel good.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same way where you can jump and then double jump, or you can jump, do a dash in the air, and then out of that dash do a second jump. So you can like sort of decide, do I want just vertical height? Do I want to try to cover some height over a long distance? Stuff like that. And it's the type of game where a lot of times you'll be like delaying your second jump and using it at just the right time in order to like get up to where you want to. Like they're very intentional about you like almost having infinite coyote time and being able to jump and dash around wherever you want to.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, there is a sword that you can use, which you mostly use in combat, which I'll get into in a minute. But you can also use the sword to attack any enemies, and attacking an enemy will reset your jump, very similar to the messenger. So there are also scenes where you'll be like double jumping / jump / jump / jump, and you can like stay in midair and move all around a bunch of vertical space.
Hearing that, Steve, I assume that the controls feel really good in this game, because if they're not good, then that is more annoying than it is worth it to try, right?
Yeah, yep.
Like
yeah.
the whole staying in the air forever. Yeah.
Yep, yeah, it's very responsive. I would say that like all of the weights and like fall times and all that stuff is well tuned. It's not like a difficult game in terms of platforming. Usually anything you try to do, you're going to execute successfully on your first try. But it's the type of game where, despite that, it feels good. Like I was always like, man, that was kind of cool. Like I feel nice about doing that. Or nice. Like you get that feeling where like this might be kind of fun to speed run. It would feel good to like smoothly navigate through these levels. So, given that you'll do the platforming, the sort of encouraging with Neva. The last sort of core element that you're going to encounter right away is the combat. And you get to this within the first like 20 minutes or so of the game. You have your sword and you have a basic 3-hit combo. And enemies will attack you, and it's because it's a 2024 video game, they will sort of telegraph their attacks and you have to dodge out of the way in the last second. So the dodge and the dash are the same button. You're really dodging in midair when you're dashing. But if you do it on the ground, it's like a dodge roll. It has a very forgiving set of iframes for the dodge roll. Like if you are like anywhere close to dodge rolling near that enemy's attack, you're gonna dodge right through it. And
I
so
love that.
Yeah, if you're a Souls veteran, like you're gonna cook. All right, you're gonna absolutely cruise through this game.
Nothing worse in any game than when you dodge roll and get hit during your dodge roll and be like, I was rolling. I mean, it happens in all those kinds of games. It's like, I love that.
Yeah. Go ahead, Josh.
I will say that I've played this game, just to say that I beat it a couple of weeks when it first came out. It's a great game. I really enjoyed it. But anyway, the combat is I would say basic, but like not bad. It's kind of serviceable, but still fun. You know what I mean? Like it's not like it's just like super easy mode or anything. It's like no, there's a little challenge here, but it's good. It feels good to do. All the dodge rolls and the dashing and everything. Yeah.
To be fair, there were several combat encounters where I died. Now, a lot of times that's because I was maybe being a little like overly cocky or just sort of spamming attacks when I really should have been playing a little bit more defensively or evasively, because there is no defensive option. But it is very much possible to die. You'll just respawn right at the beginning of that combat encounter. There's like absolutely no punishment for dying. You see even the like death cutscene that plays is like 2 seconds long, because they're like, yeah, we're just going to get you right back into it. However, the combat encounters will often throw 2, 3, or even more enemies at you at the same time. So a lot of times you're needing to like pay attention to multiple different parts of the screen at once, and that's where it's pretty easy to get knocked around.
Do those encounters feel more puzzle or like actually? Because a lot of times when they throw it's just because they put them in specific positions so that you have to do a specific thing to get where you're supposed to go, rather than the Dark Souls thing where they just throw 3 enemies at you every once in a while. You got to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
But this is a puzzle platformer. Does it feel like more this is an enemy that's put specifically in this place because I have to do something with this, and then the enemy above, and blah blah blah.
I would say actually no. They don't feel too prescriptive, and the enemies move pretty freely, like all across the screen. You know, there's airborne enemies, ground-based enemies, and they'll move a pretty wide distance. And so I think the game is really trying to like test your ability to keep track of multiple enemies at one time. A big part of what makes that feel good and like helps the combat in general is that you have 3 hit points in the game. You'll have 3 hit points the entire game. If there's a way to upgrade them, I never figured it out. So I did my level 1 Souls run. All right. But
Yeah.
I don't think that there is.
Capital G.
I don't think so either.
But each of those hit points they're like little flowers that are constructed out of 6 petals. And every attack you land on an enemy will refill one of the petals. So functionally, every 6 attacks you land recharges 1 health point. And as far as I noticed, I think every attack in the game does 1 health worth of damage. I don't think there's ever anything that does more. So it's very much just, will you make 3 mistakes too close together or while playing like not aggressive enough? But it's very possible to, like, you know, catch a window, dodge roll, and in their downtime for their animation, get half or more of a health back. Especially in some of those encounters with multiple enemies, because a lot of times they'll like end up stacking up and their hitboxes will overlap, and each hit that connects with a unique enemy gives you 1 petal. So there's 3 on top of each other because they all like rushed you at once. Every swipe of that clump is going to give you half of a health point back, and you'll recharge super fast. So it kind of naturally balances itself where the more enemies there are, probably the faster you're recovering health at the same point.
Gotcha.
So it works out pretty well.
Like Bloodborne.
Yeah, it's basically Bloodborne. If Bloodborne was really colorful and not stressful. So that's the core kind of setup. The one thing, and I'm going to say that this is not a spoiler because it's in the marketing materials, it's on the Steam page and everything. The structure of the game is laid out across seasons. So you start in summer and you'll go, you know, summer, autumn, winter through the different seasons, and Neva in each season will have grown up a little bit. So in summer, Neva starts a little wolf pup that you're navigating around. But as the seasons go on, you know, Neva becomes more like independent, more capable, and it actually starts to go like it kind of naturally flows from you protecting Neva as a pup and trying to help Neva out to like Neva almost being the one helping you. Like Neva becomes much more involved in combat. You'll get some abilities that let you control Neva in combat, and it starts to become very much like, man, what would I do if Neva wasn't here? Thank gosh Neva's around. So it's cool to see like their relationship build in that way, and who depends on who change over the course of the game. And there's obviously like more that goes into that in the actual story bits that I won't get into, but as a general sort of thesis, I think that they've described this game as basically playing on that exact relationship. So I thought it was pretty cool.
So this game is, and I know you've touched on it, but it cannot be stated enough, and I'm sure everyone that's listening has seen screenshots. It is absolutely gorgeous. It looks amazing.
Yeah, like amazing. Honestly, playing it, literally the music and the graphics like moved me to tears. Like I was welling up how beautiful it was. Like it's that gorgeous. Like to not even understate it a little bit. So yeah.
Being that, and I guess it's a question for both of you since you both played it, being that it is that gorgeous, I find that when a game looks really good, sometimes there's other sacrifices like not being able to tell what's something you can jump on. Is that ever an issue?
I will say for me, no. This game actually, was that true for you too, Josh?
Yeah, I agree with you. It was it honestly telegraphed it really well. I'd never noticed the spot where I'm like, oh wait, am I supposed to jump here? Nothing like that. No friction there on that part.
Yeah, and importantly, it never was hard to see where to go, but also the platforms and the places you navigated all felt very natural to the environment. You know, some games end up being like really beautiful painted backgrounds and then just like, you know, a Super Smash Brothers Final Destination stage or whatever, where there's just like 3 straight line platforms that don't really make any sense. Maybe they have some grass texture or something.
Right.
This all felt like, you were on cliff sides and different architecture and stuff, all incredibly natural to the way that the game looked.
Yeah, and then there's areas with like, not really spoilers, but there's some areas with like floating islands that just look really cool. That is super obvious where to jump to. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And to use their first game as a touch point, because I think more people will have played Gree than this one. Gree was kind of abstract in a lot of ways. There'd be like a lot of what Josh referenced of like crumbling, floating architecture, like weird statues where you're like running on something's hand and stuff. Neva is much more grounded. Like you're moving through nature, through forests, stuff like that. Although there are times where you're running through more like, I'm not going to say man-made because I don't really know what they come from, but more like architectural locations, like harsh angle stone and stuff like that. There's times where it's almost got like a little bit of a Fez energy to it with how...
Yeah, it's like what would you call it? Maybe brutalist at times.
Yeah.
I guess that's a term people use.
Yeah,
I'm trying to sound smart here. I don't know. I don't think I'm pulling it off though. So
Chadley's dragging me in the chat. That's so rude of him. I used to like him. Yeah, so you'll come across some like actual structures, and those will be relevant to some puzzle solving and stuff, and those remind me a lot of Fez. There's also parts, Josh, I don't know, did you finish this? I should have asked, Josh.
Yeah. It's not very long. What is it, like 4 hours or so, give or take? Yeah. I finished it. It's great. But what's it?
There's also some environments that to me almost reminded me of Hollow Knight in some ways. Like there's some some creepier stuff that was like vaguely Hollow Knight adjacent or just
I could see where
weird.
like I could see the threads there where you would draw the connections.
Yeah, not all the time, but every now and again. So they do a good job of mixing it up, right? You'll get these big, beautiful outdoor areas. You'll get kind of shaded areas. You'll get, again, man-made structures, and then you'll also get areas that are just kind of like sort of abstract. They fit a little bit more into the natural flow of the world, but they're a little more fantastical. Something that I noticed, I don't know if you did, Josh, when you were playing, but like something that felt like an upgrade from Gree is the lighting. Now I think it's all like painted in, but they do, I don't know the name of that effect. I'm not smart enough to tell you, but they do that thing where like light is, they're trying to like represent the sun in the scene, and so certain parts of the landscape are like blown out or kind of hard to focus on, or like the color is changed, like as if like when you like walk from a dark room into like the bright outside and like your vision's kind of squinty.
It's like that Fallout 3 thing where you're like can't see at the beginning. I think a lot of games actually call that God rays. Is that kind of what you're what you're thinking of, like coming through the trees and stuff, I guess?
No, less that, because it does have a lot of those that are really good. This is more like if you're trying to like look up at a tree or something that the sun happens to be right next to, how the fact that the sun is like in your peripheral vision is sort of like blooming and making it a little bit hard to focus. It's got that going on.
The way you said it reminds me of like that weird, and this is much more of a 2D game than this, but in games like these new HD 2D games, there's like a weird backdrop that's like it gets blurrier and blurrier as things go backwards, right? Further away from where your character is. I don't know if that's it or not, but I like those visual effects. I think that, especially in pixel art games, like it makes it look like a game that you couldn't have played in the 90s, which makes it feel like pixel modern or whatever, right? So
I was gonna say I played Grease and then this back to back, which was an interesting thing because I never played Grease before, so I was like, well, it's on Game Pass, I'm gonna jump in and play through that. It's like 2-hour game, and I'm like, all right, that's awesome. And then Neva came out the next day, so I jumped right into Neva, and it was like a nice kind of continuation. Like if you guys haven't played Grease, this is actually a good way to play it, in my opinion. It was nice to kind of see how they took some ideas from Grease and like improved on it and added like you said, like better lighting, a little bit more detailed graphics. It's just like it feels like a sequel to Grease, which is like you were saying earlier, and it's even more evident when you play it back to back like that.
Would you say then that you liked Neva more of the two?
I would say so. Yeah.
Like
I think
similar,
there's just
but a little more.
yeah, yeah. I think the puzzles are a little bit more clever in not Greece in Neva, but and then the combat I really enjoyed, and I thought, like I said earlier, it's simple but very fun to do. It's just very enjoyable combat, even though it is a very simple system. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. It feels good, even though it's like two buttons and never difficult at all. I will say you mentioned like the puzzles are a little more involved in Neva. I really liked that they do the thing like each season and sometimes multiple times in a season you'll get into areas that seem to sort of have like one core mechanic that they're exploring a little bit. Like the very first one you'll find in summer is you'll find these trees that have sort of been plague ridden, and when you like slash the darkened part of the bark and trees, the tree will like snap in half, and the part that's snapped off will sort of just like float there in the air kind of supernaturally. Very Gree. If you ever played Gree, that's what everything in that game is doing. And so you get into, there's like some puzzles around like, how do I break this tree apart? How do I get to the other side to break it? And when I break it, now that has created a new platform for me to move across. It's changed up the environment a little bit, the way I can proceed through this screen. Stuff like that. And there's a lot of like different mechanics they introduce, explore, and then move on from, and don't revisit a ton. And I actually wish in a lot of cases that they would go a little deeper into some of them, because there were a lot of times where I was like, oh, this is a really fun idea, or this is really cool, and they use it in like, they introduce it, and then they have you solidify it, and then they, do a twist on it once or twice, and then they just don't really ever do it again. And I'm like, come on, guys, you could have built a whole game around that mechanic, and you're teasing me.
Yeah, it's like the Mario or Astrobot thing where it's like especially Astrobot earlier this year with that little shrinking mechanic. It's like I would do a whole game of like 50 of those, 50 of those levels. They do that here for sure. I agree with you.
Yep.
Yeah. Speaking of the mechanics, is this, and you guys might have touched on it and I missed it as I was reading things, but is this an overly challenging game? Or it doesn't seem like it would be very difficult. I know you said combat isn't difficult, but in terms of puzzling, is that very hard?
No, there's pretty much never a puzzle that I can think of that I didn't like pretty much immediately and understand intuitively what I needed to do. That doesn't mean that it's boring, because I think this type of game isn't really that well served by being like super challenging in the way that like a more literal puzzle platform, like a hardcore puzzle platformer like Buttered Cat game would be. But it's still always fun to execute the solutions, and it's the type of game where when you solve a screen or solve a puzzle, you're not saying to yourself, wow, I'm so clever. You're usually saying, oh, that was a clever idea that the game had. Like, it's more being impressed by what they're doing.
Okay.
So yeah, that covers most things. Of course, Josh mentioned the score. Great soundtrack in this game. It's by Berlinist, and it's the same folks that scored Gree, and they knock it out of the park. It does everything you'd expect in a game like this that is going to have like some, peaceful points, some more emotional points, stuff like that. It'll swell in the right moments with like big strings and stuff like that. It'll fall into the background, and it'll give you a lot like quieter, softer, more chill type music as you're running around. Sometimes very playful, upbeat during the happier moments of the story. It's just very cool. So it's the type of soundtrack that for sure will show up on an IQ OST, even though we haven't done one of those episodes in so long. It'll for sure come back up, and it pairs with the visuals so well that it's hard to imagine playing this game without the score accompanying it.
Yeah, we need to do like a super, super long OST or something, like a super stuffed one or something soon.
Double stuffed OST. Heck yeah. That's how I like my OSTs.
Yep. So yeah, any questions? Any lingering, I just need to know it's about Neva?
Yeah, and in the chat, if you have anything, we can vamp a little, and you can throw some comments or questions in there, and we'll read them off and answer them for you.
I have had Gree or Grease sitting in my library for quite some time. And I think I remember seeing, Josh, that you had played it. I was going to play it and bring it semi soon, but then I saw you had played it. I'm like, well, I don't want to do that, and we both bring it at the same time. But that certainly would be one that I think should be on the quest log, of course, and maybe could be brought soon. But yeah, I mean, I think that I will hold off on playing this game until after I play that one, so I have that comparison.
I would,
but they both are. I mean, I think the standout for both of them is the visuals. They're incredible. So
yeah.
I was gonna say, thankfully, it's not just the visuals in this game. Right? Like, there's certain games like I think of Hoa, where I'm like, that game was all sizzle and absolutely no steak. But Gree is like, and Neva are both like, look how beautiful this is, and you play them and you're like, they're also really fun. They would be fun to play the wireframe version of too.
Right.
Yeah, and this is just like a studio that goes to like up the top, like I'm just going to be watching whatever they do next. I just want to see what else they do, because take your time with it, obviously, because it's beautiful. It takes time to make stuff that looks this good, but I would classify both of these like as a work of art because of how beautiful they are. Just like when you're in the games, you just they have a certain feeling to them. They both have that same feeling, and I can't quite place it, but they just have a specific vibe. So
yeah, it's a lot of subtle decisions. Obviously, like the actual artwork of the backgrounds is incredible. The music matches things really nicely. The game is really smart about moving the camera and like pulling the camera in and out to like sell the emotion of a particular scene. They, at certain points they'll pull the camera way back and your character will be way smaller on screen because they're trying to show you like the scale of this architecture that you're standing in front of. Or sometimes it'll like move the camera so you're offset left or right from where you're running because they want to like add dramatic tension because something is behind you, or because they want you to like be able to see a lot of runway. It's just really smart, really well made.
Awesome.
So I think there are no other questions. We're gonna go ahead and drop it in the quest log. Boys, we're going to do a 3-way main quester this time. Josh, would you have main quested it if you were bringing it?
Yeah, definitely. I'm not even going to think so. I would. And, I always like having a 3-way with you guys. It feels pretty good.
Especially for charity, right?
Yeah, especially for charity. I would question it otherwise. I'd still do it, but I'd question it.
Yeah, I don't need a reason, but it is nice to have one. So, yeah, I think for me, great main quest. We talk about like the intention of the main quest a lot, and one of the things we always cite is that a game that like pretty much everybody could get some enjoyment out of is a good fit for the main quest. That's not like a exclusive criteria, but this is a perfect example of that, where it's like I think almost everybody, even folks that are not very familiar with games, will get a lot out of playing this one because it's just so accessible and it looks so great and it hooks you in right from the get. So
for sure.
Yeah,
that's like 3 main quests today. Wow. What was it? Minishoot, Cato, a buttered cat. What is the subtitle there?
Cato, buttered cat. I think it was originally just
buttered
Cato.
Cat? Okay.
But then they wanted to emphasize that it's a buttered cat. So
yeah, and then Neva. So awesome main quest is there. That's super cool. I mean, that doesn't always happen with us. We do occasionally have a 3-way side quest one too. It's 3-way on the side.
I don't know if there was any sort of like if we felt any sort of obligation to bring particularly good games to the live episode or to support the charity, or if it's just how it worked out. But yeah.
I was definitely leaning towards I want to bring a bang or something that I really am excited to talk about, and I don't know. I think I like to think that you fellas had similar feelings. So, but yeah, this was a fantastic episode and a great first live episode.
Heck,
kick off this charity stream as well. So good.
Well,
we're going to hang out, I think, for the next 15-ish minutes. And if anybody has any questions for the podcast, go ahead and shoot them here. Even suggestions that we could play in the future, anything like that, throw them in the chat.
Yeah, you want to know.
We'll chat. Yeah.
Anything about our taste, anything about any of these games, anything. Also, keep donating for charity, folks. We've already got a really good, strong start on the donations, so keep it going.
For sure.
And Mr. Sparkle did point out that all the games that we brought today all have demos too. So if there is like maybe I'm not going to like that. You can give it a shot, at least, on all three of these. So
there you go. Oh, I think I forgot to mention for Neva, it is available on all the modern stuff. So you can get it on Switch, PS5, Xbox Series, and on PC. And at least on the PS5 version that I played, it runs great. So this was an easy day one for me. That wasn't actually a day one because, like Josh was saying, this is like a must follow studio, but they dropped it this October 15th, and I get like going for the fall vibes, but guys, I'm right in the middle of spooky season. I'm not going to play your beautiful outdoor artistic game right after I play Resident Evil 3. So this one had to wait for November for me.
We got a comment from our question from Mr. Mo 1984 in the chat. He says, "How much for Enter the Gungeon to be moved to the main quest?" That question's going to go to Seth. How much money does he have to donate?
It's so funny that you say that, Mr. Mo, because we had this exact conversation amongst us three at one point, and I think Steve said something about, I don't remember what the dollar amount was to get it removed, because I was joking about putting Tunic directly, like paying $500 and you could put Tunic directly on the side quest, but only the side quest, to make Steve upset. And then Steve said, "Well, I'll just say that they can, for $5, we'll remove Enter the Gungeon." And I was like, actually, Mr. Mo would probably like that, so he could have another opportunity at getting on the main quest in the future. So I mean, like we always say, Mr. Mo, like we can't move anything. It's a Google sheet.
Yep.
As everyone knows, as soon as it's on there, it can't be changed.
No way to move it. Take it up with Google. I'd love to be able to move stuff around, but it's locked in place.
And Trav did mention to shout out where you can find the quest log. It's at indiequestpod.com. So if you guys are curious where that is, where that's located, and to find awesome indie games, check that out.
I'll also shout out Burger Champ. Mentions that Chained Echoes is a good indie game. We had Burger on, I don't know, God, was that 50 episodes ago by now? That was feels like a long time ago. But I haven't played it yet. Now I have no obligation to ever play it again.
Yep. Because
although I really should. It really looks good. But Burger sung its praises. I'll read Sir Chadley's question here. Any indie games you've played recently that were pretty good but not questlog worthy? That's a good question.
Ooh.
I do have one. I have one.
All right, cool.
This one was I actually was going to put it on the side quest for the longest time, and I was just like, it's just okay. I don't know if it's even. It's Haunty. Haunty. I thought it was just okay. Like, I like the art style. It was okay, but the gameplay itself, honestly, to me, just felt kind of just fine. That's one of the rare ones I played. I was like, it's probably like a 6 out of 10. Not the best game I played ever, but I didn't hate that I played it or anything, but I wouldn't bring it to the quest log. So
okay.
I'm looking at my sheet of what I played recently. Yes. So I just finished up a game earlier this month. It's called Minute of Islands. It's like a bit of a point and click adventure sort of loose puzzle game. Really nice art style, like very, very beautiful. It actually has like almost like a cartoony sort of look to it. Looks great, but the actual game itself is very slow, and I kind of like fell off of it. I actually played it in like 2021, fell off of it, and just went back to it now this year and finished it up. And yeah, I would say that one, like, for me, just hits the right below a side quest barrier where it's like a 6 out of 10. Like, it's fine, but I think the art style almost kind of bait and switches you a little bit. It's got Hoa syndrome. It hooks you in that trailer on the PlayStation Store or wherever you are, and then you play it and you're like, all right,
I get it.
That's okay. Yeah. We're so uncomfortable talking about things that we just kind of don't like. We're so used to being like, oh, these games are awesome, go check them out.
I will say that's the exception, not the rule. Almost everything I play, I like enough to potentially bring, even if I can't bring them all.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, so that for me was, I think it was called Froggo's Verdant Adventure. It's like it is basically a Kirby-like. It's like somebody created a Kirby game, but instead of playing Kirby, you're playing as like a round frog. I still recommend it if anybody out there is looking for a very short Kirby-like experience and wants to just get that vibe going. Go play it. It's like I was going to bring it to our bargain quest episode, but I can't. I played Circle Hitter or Ball at Hell for that one, which was just so much better. So yeah, I mean, it was good. It's probably maybe close to side quest worthy, but not quite something I would bring. And then I also brought Recolit, which was like very low end side quest for me personally. Still worth playing, but I could see where somebody would leave it off. Search Adley just said another question. Has anyone looked into the recent update to Sea of Stars? I wonder if the changes would affect your opinions on it. I'll answer this quickly. I have not, although I did see or did hear from Potomax that he is playing it because they did like a French-Canadian language release or something like that, which is like more like French-Canadian dialect, I believe. And he says it's awesome. I mean, just the game in general is awesome, but I have not revisited since the DLC was released. I don't know about you guys.
I haven't yet. I will go back and do the DLC at some point. I probably won't replay the game because I know in addition to the DLC, they also did a bunch of updates and like balances to like address feedback that people have. So like something that even we mentioned is that the game has kind of a slow start, and I think that they've gone in and they've added like a few combat encounters into the early game and like tightened up the story in the early game a bit. And I think I don't know if I'm remembering this 100% correctly, but I think they also did some work to like add a little bit more variety to like the spells you have access to, or like make it so that the encounters don't often like follow kind of the same progression every time. They actually changed the combat system somehow with like the locks and stuff. So they've done some stuff that I think would make it interesting and actually maybe warrant a revisit, but I don't know that I have another RPG in me unless we were going to do an episode where we talked about just the changes.
I don't I feel like my game, which I never got bored of, it was always fun for me, but I feel like the game when we played through it for the episode on here became like battle and then Moonerang minigame. Like that is like 90% of the battles were like, how many times can I ricochet this Moonerang back at the enemy? And that was kind of everything that I did forever. Berger just mentioned that they actually added 3-player co-op, which is really fun.
Yeah.
I've always felt like for a turn-based RPG, it shouldn't be that hard to just make it optional. So you can, rather than watch somebody, you can at least pick up a controller. Not indie, but Lord of the Rings, The Third Age did that, and I played through so much of that game with my cousin. It was so much fun.
That game's low-key pretty good, man. If you like Final Fantasy X, go play The Third Age.
There you go.
Final Fantasy IX did that too. I think they let you assign different characters to different controllers, and so I used to go to my buddy's house when he was like late game, and we would grind together. Like we would farm random mobs just because we could both like mash out whatever spells. I don't know why it's fun to be the one in control of a menu, but it is. One of the great mysteries in life.
Mr. Sparkle says, sorry, were you going to mention it, Josh?
No, yeah, you can go. You got it.
Oh, okay. After the Ware Cleaner, have you guys looked into any more of the output from the USC game development program? I have not, but absolutely need to because the Ware Cleaner is such a banger, especially for a free game. And, I played a game probably 2 years ago now called Post Mouse, which came out from one of the European universities. And I mean, I will say it was not Ware Cleaner, but it was also free and also very cool. And so much of that stuff, when you see, especially when you know that these kids in school are working on these games, like you kind of want to play them, especially if they're really well received, because those kids are going to go on to make games. Like it's kind of a cool touch point, right? So
yeah, like 10 years from now, you're going to be like, oh my God, I'm playing this amazing indie game that's popping off that is from the devs of Ware Cleaner.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's so cool. That's awesome.
Just remember, folks, that Outer Wilds started as a student thesis project. So that's the place to pay attention to.
I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, what game are they going to be making next? The Outer Wilds team.
I'd be sweating if I was them, man. Like,
yeah, I know.
Talk about big shoes to fill. Your own shoes, but big shoes to fill.
Right. Yeah, it's like Hades 2. Like, how do you? It's incredible that they're doing it, and I hope it. I mean, I think people have said it's amazing, but or at least what's there so far.
Burger says Plucky Square. I assume he's referring to games that don't quite hit side quests. I think that's true.
Oh, there you go.
That's true for me. I don't think I brought it right.
No.
Yeah,
No.
Plucky. I would say Plucky is maybe also just below the fold.
Recent guest Jimmy Mook here says any holiday themed games on tap for December.
Ooh.
I'm not sure that I will bring it to IndieQuest, but I may. But it is that time of year where we're really heading into GOTY season, right? There's a game that released late last year, so maybe I can convince the boys to let me put it on my 2024 list. But it was December of 2023, called Snowman Story, and it is by the same developer that did Meg's Monster, Odin Cat.
Okay.
So Bear's Restaurant, right? Looks very, very cool. It looks much more Bear's Restaurant than Meg's Monster. Like more of that almost text adventure. You're not doing a whole lot of actually playing the game. But Bear's Restaurant was a moving experience for sure. Actually, a great touch point for the charity that we are talking about today, right? So International Association for Suicide Prevention. Meg's Monster deals with that a little bit too, I suppose, but Bear's Restaurant really deals with those themes. But it seems like Snowman Story also is in a similar vein. And of course, it's during the winter, so it'd be a fun December play.
I just want to play Crypt Custodian. That's one of my. I know you loved it, and I have it. I just haven't got around to it. That's just one I want to clean up before the end of the year. So that's the one that popped right up to the top of my mind.
I know. I don't know if she's still in chat, but Pam also enjoyed that game. It's so good, so good. Makes it one of the many games that make my game of the year choices tough.
Crypt Custodian has the weird advantage of PlayStation introduced like a customizable dashboard home screen that they call the Explore screen, and you can like put different widgets on. One of the widgets is a wish list thing that shows up, and it'll like show you if something on your wish list is on sale. And I think because it's the most recent game I wish listed on PlayStation, Crypt Custodian is on there. And so every time I boot up my PlayStation, I just see like $19.99 Crypt Custodian. I'm like, maybe today's the day.
Yeah, it's so good.
We'll see. But yeah, thanks, folks. I think that's pretty much going to do it for us in terms of time. Any last minute thoughts, boys, that you have to share with folks? Keep donating. Links are in the Twitch description and on your screen right now. It's for a good cause.
Yeah, I'll just say if you guys, excuse me, if you guys want to find anything for the show, it's IndieQuest Pod on all social medias and stuff. If you're just tuning in for the first time or just interested in following us, even on Blue Sky. I got us a Blue Sky account, so check that out if you want to follow the show.
Yeah, sounds good. All right.
Polymedia Discord, best place on the internet.
Heck yeah. Go to polymedianetwork.com to learn more about the charity and more about all the other shows as well. We're going to sign off. My final word of wisdom to you is donate, donate, donate. So we'll see you all later. Peace out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Bye.
Much love.